What up, man? This is Sir John Legion, the Lord with the Sword. Early in my years as a teenager and young adult, as I was making the transitioning of embracing my creative side and becoming more invested in performance art and storytelling, this was around the time I began to take interest in the Academy Awards, aka the Oscars, the most prestigious award ceremony in Hollywood, and it's been marketed as the most glamorous night in Hollywood, let alone the most relevant. Now, up until the mid-2010s, the Oscars has lost its appeal to middle America and its target demographic for reasons that are obvious to anybody who's been paying attention. The obvious far-left stances that the Academy and many celebrities endorse or at least advocate for, the shift to the rhetoric and leftist propaganda that the audience are subjected to during these acceptance speeches, the gender politics, the pandering, the open misandry, the removal of meritocracy in exchange for forced diversity quotas that will in fact be imposed in the Academy's oncoming diversity and inclusion initiative, just to name a few. But all these things attribute to the Oscars' catastrophic plunge in ratings and in viewership over the past 7 years. Now, I stopped watching the Oscars after 2017. I believe that was the year the Oscars happened in the wake of the Me Too movement that started on social media just a few months prior, before the actual award show. But I know for certain after that year, I didn't care. And I still don't care, even after the events that transpired Sunday night. I did absolutely no research on this year's Academy Awards. I didn't know Will was nominated for anything. Just as an aside, I have seen the movie King Richard, and in my personal opinion, I believe Will Smith gives the best performance of his career in this film. I truly believe that. But again, I had no knowledge of his nomination. I didn't know what movies were nominated. Just off pure speculation, at the very least, I was willing to bet on two things. Dune was going to be nominated for some stuff. I did see Dune. And the host of the show was going to be a woman. I knew that much going in, which I found out a few days ago would be Amy Schumer. But this video really isn't about the drop in ratings. At least not the focus. This video isn't even about the show itself, but it's about the moment that happened involving one Chris Rock and one Will Smith that overshadowed the entire show and is currently dominating the mainstream news circuit, as well as social media. Like most of you, I was not watching the Academy Awards when this moment went down. I was awake and I was on my laptop, and a video suggestion happened to pop up in my recommendation titled Will Smith Slaps Chris Rock During the Oscars. Now, my immediate reaction before even watching the video and getting the context of this was that it was a skit. Something that had been rehearsed by Rock and Smith, or at least agreed upon prior to the actual show, because it's the Oscars. Their ratings are in the toilet and they have alienated much of their audience, and I expected that this was a desperate attempt to create controversy and grab a ratings boost for more viewers, or at least to secure more viewers for next year's award show. So my initial thoughts was that it was staged. However, after watching the video all the way through, and I did a couple of times before I finally went to bed, and I also saw the unedited version, I'm torn between whether or not I think it was staged or if Will's reaction as well as Rock's reaction was completely organic. I'm making this analysis based on what we, the audience, actually saw and the things that happened to Will Smith and Jada leading up to this particular night. Now, in the assumption that it was not staged, I do not for 1 second believe Chris Rock's joke by itself about Jada and her upcoming movie G.I. Jane, which the joke, in my opinion, was minuscule and cheeky at best. In my opinion, it was no way a joke that I thought had any malice or ill intent, or I didn't even think of it as a mean joke. It was just I just saw it as somewhat of a throwaway joke that got some laughter, like a cheap joke that got cheap laughter. Hey, at the Academy Awards, you're bound to hear there are plenty of those going around, regardless of who's telling it. I know for a fact that was not what prompted him, because Will Smith was caught laughing at said joke. Clearly, he thought it was funny. So no, the joke itself did not trigger Will's outburst or prompted him to walk up on stage, slap the fire out of Chris Rock's ass, and then return to his seat, admonishing to Rock, "Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth." And Jada's reaction, which was caught on camera, clearly she was not amused. That may have triggered the sudden switch in Will's demeanor, that he was caught on camera laughing. Keep in mind, you clearly see that in the footage. Now, she may have said or even whispered something to Will once the camera cut away from her back to Chris Rock on stage. But from what I believe, I saw Will Smith's outburst and later on his emotional acceptance speech for winning the award as the culmination of him reaching his breaking point, his emotional breaking point of a man who almost 20 months ago had his image and status and perception as a husband, a man, and an alpha male, or whatever you want to call it, completely destroyed, tarnished forever. That man was emasculated, and it happened before the entire world. Now, I'm of course talking about, now we can pinpoint the moment that I'm talking about to that episode on Jada's talk show, the Red Table Talk podcast. That infamous episode that Will appeared on, where Jada revealed to him her entanglement with R&B singer and family friend of the Smiths, specifically Jaden's friend, her son's friend, August Alsina. This kid was in their house, had a relationship with Will, apparently saw him as a mentor. Will knew this cat on a personal level. Now, I don't care if it's Will Smith or Joe Smo, whether you're in an open relationship with your wife or not, you are not going to be able to escape the trauma of having your nut job wife reveal this shit to you publicly on television under the pretense that you are totally fine with that. If you're the husband, not if your wife truly respects you as a man. Once that happened, the narrative on Will Smith completely changed by way of his disturbed wife. Will was branded with cuck status right then and there, and he and Jada have been getting ridiculed for it, more so Will, on social media by comedians and everybody and their mama that saw it to this very day. We have not forgotten that moment. That shit didn't go nowhere, and Will knows this. So Sunday night, he saw that moment as an opportunity to try and salvage what shred of manhood he had left, clearly none based off his actions, when he tried to punk a smaller, weaker, less physically imposing Chris Rock, simply because he knew he could. It's when he does approach Rock and slap him in the face, and we see Smith completely turn his back, walking back to his seat, and he even smirks. If you notice in the footage, when Will turns his back to go back to his seat, he gives a small little smirk. That was also caught on camera. I noticed that too. Unfortunately for Will, as image conscious as he may believe himself to be, despite how out of touch his wife, their two children, the whole Smith family may appear to be, and probably are out of touch with reality. I don't think it's a stretch to even imply that. He left himself vulnerable to this kind of embarrassment years ago by not checking his wife and himself about putting their business out there to the masses through a TV show. By not checking her about this long before she even started with that show. It is Will's job as the husband to monitor that broad. But apparently he's gotten soft over the years. If you're Will Smith, you're an actor married to an actress who since day one has been living in your shadow. An actress, from what I can tell, has probably been one of the more attention-starved women in the industry, despite the notoriety that she gained and has maintained from being married to him. One whose relationship with Tupac is constantly a topic of conversation and constantly gets resurfaced, even sometimes by her, which I'm sure Will has to be sick of hearing that. I mean, the man's been dead for damn near, 30 years now? And Jada said to her, and Jada told Will herself that she did not believe in a traditional marriage, and that the idea of an open marriage came from her. Will, as a child, does not have any knowledge of being the product of a healthy traditional marriage. Matter of fact, I believe he was pretty much raised by his grandmother, but I digress. And let me say this about Chris Rock. Those that believe Chris Rock purposefully was targeting Jada and came up with that joke off the top of the head, that he decided to just improv that. First of all, last time I checked, the host and presenters of these award shows have scripts. Everybody, including comedians, the people who are paid to tell jokes and roast the actors in the audience, are reading from a script. The writers of the show knew Will and Jada were going to be present, and I'm willing to bet Chris Rock wasn't even aware that Jada was suffering from alopecia. I sure as hell didn't. And the fact that she is losing her hair, big deal. She ain't even completely bald. She still has her hair. She basically just walked in there with a fade. To most of us would have just assumed that she chose to cut it if we didn't know that she was actually suffering from alopecia, but most of us would have just assumed that she chose to cut it, or either for a role or just as a personal preference. Look, I'm a man. Last time I checked, we as men lose our hair too. Millions of dudes around the world go bald, and that shit is natural. Where's our violin music? Nobody crying for when a man in his 50s or 60s starts going bald. And but this isn't going to be the only time that I'm going to broach this subject. There will be a second video discussing this incident and also Will Smith's acceptance speech, because he did win the award. And I do want to delve deeper into this topic because I do feel that it was very poignant about where we are as a society. And also, this is, in my opinion, a microcosm of something that deeply affects our community, and it's something that definitely needs to be addressed. And I plan on doing that in the near future. As far as whether I think Chris Rock or Will Smith, or who amongst the two men involved was in the wrong, well, clearly I think Will was in the wrong. But again, I'll delve into that into the second video, which will be an extended conversation and in-depth discussion on this particular event and the repercussions that will follow that particular incident, because there will be repercussions. Now, it did not surprise me that Chris Rock chose not to press charges. I didn't think he would. I assumed that he wouldn't. I believe that there is a particular dynamic that he and Will Smith share. As far as I know, they are familiar with each other and they are friends. So I think that dynamic has to be analyzed, as well as their professional relationship and the social hierarchy that exists within Hollywood. We know there's a social hierarchy, so I'll be delving into that too. I guess this works as somewhat of a preview video, and I just wanted to touch on this subject because, as I said, I will be touching on it in a much longer video, and that video will be up shortly in the near future. So thank you so much. If this was your first time checking out a video on my channel, please, before you hit the subscribe button, leave a comment and tell me what your thoughts were. This is Sir John Legion signing off.